Hello and welcome. Mark Keohane here with Ollie Keohane, and we got Zellum Nell zooming in from home because he's not feeling too well. We're discussing the United Rugby Championship, the Vodacom United Rugby Championship, and it's brought to you by Betway. Our man, Money Man, is not here today. He's in Budapest. Not fighting the war, but he is there on business. And if you want to know his bets for the weekend, go to the Money Man Facebook page and also go to the SA Rugby Magazine Facebook page, closer to the matches. 30,000 of you logged onto his little clips last week, and I think he called them all, with the exception of the Lions against Munster. I think we all called Munster to win that one, but I know Money Man did call England to be thrashed. Zels, you and I called England to kind of do something unthinkable and win in Paris. They were diabolical. That's not why we're here to chat, though. We're here to chat about 8 South African victories in 8 matches at home against understrength opposition. For the first time this tournament, we have a full strength, very good side coming to South Africa in the form of Ulster. 8 of their 9 internationals plus Duane Vermeulen against an informed Stormers side. How do you see that one going?
You guys talking to me? Well, I mean, I'll go first. So that is the toughest game of the week to call. Obviously, the Stormers are flying high. They're 7th on the log. They've won 4 of their last 5 matches. In the last 2 games, they've scored 95 points and conceded 10. They've scored 6 tries, I think conceded 0. So they are flying high. And in the last 2 rounds, the 8 matches you're talking about, Mark, South Africa has scored 318 points. South African teams, they've conceded 113. That's 32 tries to 12. We've certainly got a lot of reason to be optimistic. Having said that, this Ulster team is no pushover. 2nd on the log on a 6-match winning streak. They're 10-3, and they're coming here with Duane. I mean, it's a pretty milestone game for the Stormers. I think I think if the Stormers can knock off Ulster at full strength, that really does not only push them up in the standings, but it really does sort of unveil the Stormers as a proper contender. I see they tipped as favourites by the bookies.
Yeah, I see that. I just want to get Ollie in here as well. Thanks for doing all that research. Fantastic effort. Well prepared. Evan Roos, you're a big fan of Evan Roos. Evan Roos, Duane Vermeulen, is that the matchup you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it, yesterday, but 18 months ago, watched Evan Roos sort of, as he was coming on the scene, play Duane Vermeulen when the Stormers played the Bulls. And he handled himself very well and kind of just gave indication that he could definitely was a prospect going forward. It's now, as you point out, 18 months later. In Duane Vermeulen's case, that means maybe 18 months older, and Evan Roos 18 months stronger. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from him. I think especially last weekend, we watched the game together and felt that there was a little bit of an oomph missing. But maybe it's one of those situations where he also rises to the occasion of the opposition. The Stormers put Cardiff away incredibly easily last weekend. Now it's sort of like he's got that incentive of he's playing Duane. And Zals, like you said, it's as good as the Stormers have been, it really is a marker because it's the first game that they're playing, despite what the bookies say, where it's not really a case of they should be winning this one. I think when they played Munster, when they played Cardiff, it was like they're playing a weekend. Sorry, did they play Leinster or Munster? When the Stormers, when they first
played Munster.
Munster. Without the internationals, it was like they should win their Sons internationals. Last weekend they should win. This one, despite what the bookies say, I think Stormers are valued at 1.50, which I think is a little bit generous. Despite what they say, it's one that's not necessarily a given.
Well, we do have a Cape Town stadium, 50% capacity if you wanted. I know it was open for the Currie Cup last night. There was not much difference. I think people still thought the 2,000 regulation was in place. So hopefully we can get a crowd of around 20,000 there for the game, and that will also add something to the Stormers. Zals, I know you've always been quite closely connected to the Stormers. What has impressed you about the way they've been playing, especially in the last month? I know we felt they really gave it away in Connacht. That should have been an away win, that they were 17-7 up, and then they ended up losing at 19-17. But since they've been back, where would you say the triggers are in terms of what's making the Stormers side so difficult to beat in South Africa?
So what I think the Stormers have got right now is something that they've probably been working on for a while. They've got a history and a tradition of being a a team and from a region that likes to throw the ball around. But where the Stormers are getting it right now is that they're using their set phase attack to set up the kinds of kicks that result in turnovers and contestable kicks that they recover, so that they are attacking against unstructured defense. So instead of trying to break teams down through multi-phase attack, they're using that set phase attack. That Marnie Lubbock's doing a great job with those attacking kicks. Warwick Gelant the same. Hit grass. The receiver on the other side gets the ball in a mountain of trouble. The Stormers defense forces a turnover or a kick receipt from an exit that doesn't find touch. And suddenly, you've got guys like Siabela Sanatla and Warwick Gelant, etc., very dangerous in space, running against a defense that isn't organized. And I think that's the recipe that the Sharks got right for a while, last year and the year before. And the Stormers have certainly sort of they've struck gold there, and I think that's the keys. They're not necessarily trying to break teams down with that set phase attack anymore. It's about how they can use their attack to create opportunities to run at defenders that aren't organized. And just to correct my earlier stat there, the Stormers have scored 15 tries and conceded 1 in the last 2 games. It's massive. They're flying high.
You think that they've found the sort of perfect combination with playing Manie Libbok at 10, Damian Willemse at 12, and then Gelant at 15? Do you think this is where they sort of need to stick it out for the rest of the competition?
Yeah, look, I think they've definitely found something there. I think they're getting the best out of the 3 players there. I'm a big Damian Willemse fan. I feel like his future is at Flav, but certainly playing him at 12 has given him an opportunity to settle and actually just do the simple stuff first. And he seems to be growing in confidence. Gelant is a dynamo out wide, an absolute playmaker. And Libbok, his stocks have certainly gone up. But again, I think all of this is related to the way that the Stormers are playing. I think if they were trying to break teams down with set phase attack, I think they would struggle. So I think they're playing to their strengths. And that's to your point there, Ollie, is yes, those 3 guys definitely in this approach are being utilized at their best.
If you take Zels, and Ollie, you can come in after Zels. Jake's had a lot to say about Ulrich Lowe. It says it's not if he plays for the Boks, it's when he plays for the Boks. Dobber has been obviously very impressed with Evan Roos. We've been impressed with the Dupree twins, who've been playing fantastic footy for the last 2-3 years. And then Ruan Ackerman has also been very good. And then let's not forget Jasper Wiese and Andre Liebenberg. So our stocks are exceptional when it comes to 8s. And then you've got the Marcel Coetzee that's still there, the veteran that's hanging around and has played good rugby. Is this a definitive game for Evan Roos when Rassie and Jacques Nienaber look at it and say he handles this Ulster pack or the challenge of their physicality, he shades Duane or actually is competitive against Duane, he's capable of coming into the bigger squad? Do you think this is probably his most important individual game? You go first, Zels, and then you, Ollie.
Yeah, I would say definitely yes, Mark. I mean, how those guys are swayed by moments. The selectors, the likes of Rassie and Jacques, if they see Evan Roos stand up against Duane and that pack, it certainly will go a long way to impressing them. I think for me personally, Evan definitely needs to do that because he's emerged as a guy who brings edge. He's a guy who, if there's a scuffle, he's the first guy there. And that's fantastic to do when you're pushing kids around in the Currie Cup and maybe even to a lesser degree, some of the guys we've had over here from Cardiff. But if he can do that against Duane, if he can man up against Duane, I think that will impress the guys that make the decision. So this is, I would say, is a vital game for him. And then also to be able to do that and actually contribute to a win. Not get yourself red carded, not get yourself yellow carded, not concede a million penalties, but to stand up, assert yourself physically, and then also be part of a successful performance. I think that's key for Evan.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point you make because at the moment they're very much, you get the feeling that there is this race among the younger guys that are coming through. You didn't actually mention Pepsi Buthelezi as well at the Sharks, still sort of there, still playing well. For me, I think Ulrich Lowe has probably been the best out of the 3 in terms of consistency and sort of like impact per match. So I think this gives Evan Roos a great chance to sort of set himself, like you said, Zal's a moment where he sets himself apart. So it's like he's sort of the first guy that's had the opportunity now to play a full strength side from the north. It's got the added bonus of having Duane Vermeulen there, who is sort of like has been the Springbok number 8, for better part of the last 10 years. So it gives him almost this like in on the other guys to be like, with my first opportunity, I fronted. What do you guys have when you come up against them, kind of thing. So, yeah, I think it definitely, I think Jacques and Rassie will be watching that game and be very aware of the circumstances.
All right, so we'll come back to who's going to win that game when we do our little picks at the end. The South African team's all favourites. When I look at some of the opposition, the Ulster one I don't know about why they should be favourites, because I think Ulster's form has also been very good, and with the internationals coming back. Then you look at the Dragons. I mean, they've been abysmal. 1 win in 10 in the competition. I mean, the Bulls should slaughter them. Again, another opportunity. I mean, the Bulls Currie Cup side, a lot of the URC players in it last night. 140-10 at Emirates Airline Park. Slow start, came back strongly. The one thing I've been impressed with in the last few weeks has been the conditioning. It seems to work for them, playing Wednesday and Friday or Wednesday and Saturday, more so than training. Your thoughts there, guys?
To take it quite far back, in 2007 World Cup, when Graham Henry sort of lost the plot before the World Cup, and even during that Super Rugby season with the New Zealand guys, and he was very much about rotation, and you build your big squad, but then your best guys, you give them one game and you pull them back, and then you play the younger guys and everything. And at the end of the day, these guys are professional rugby players that are getting paid to train, 5-6 days a week, play a match on a Saturday, and now sometimes when you're balancing 2 competitions, midweek as well. And a lot of guys, I think if you can get that culture going too, thrive off playing and winning and knowing that, I play fly off and I play fly off, twice a week this week, once a week next week, and then I get my rest, kind of thing. So I think what Jake's definitely developed in the side is guys that are actually wanting to go out there and play and win, because they've been winning. That's the other thing. They've been winning in the Currie Cup. They've now been winning in the URC. And I think guys definitely get a kick from that. And you walk a fine line as a coach, balancing a player's game time in terms of their conditioning, but then also their mental conditioning. If you feel like you are, getting picked for, say even as a second string guy, if you feel like you're only getting picked for the unimportant games the entire time, what does that do if you feel that you could be making an impact in the important games? Equally, if you're only getting picked in the important games, do you feel that you're getting enough game time in between? So, I mean, SA Rugby Runner ran a piece in the week, saying it's a bit of a master stroke from Jake and how he's approached it. And yeah, kudos to him, it's working.
Zal, before I come to you, I just want to add this point before you answer. A lot of criticism initially, like when Jake picked pretty much the same side that had played, the same squad that had played in the URC to get 2 must-win games in the Currie Cup. And they got them and they won well. Do you feel that he may not even have figured at that stage, because he needed to get the wins, but the confidence that those players got from winning and winning well went into the URC, where if they were just playing in the URC and getting a pumping, they may have been low on confidence, and the Currie Cup side may have been a bit high on confidence. That in that way, it's actually given them, it's like playing, as Ollie just said, it's like playing a lesser school on a Wednesday and getting a good win, and you actually are quite confident playing the stronger school on a Saturday. And even if you lose, you think there's another competition that I can get a victory out. And it's because their confidence levels are something I haven't seen since that first year of the Currie Cup when Jake was coaching them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Mark. I would agree with that 100%. And I think that, I don't think there's any complaint from anybody in the camp about the fact that they're playing back-to-back. If you ask players, they would much rather play a game every single day than have to play a game on a Saturday and then go and do, shuttles and other, it's corpus stump on a Monday. The guys, all of them want to be on the field playing. So it just comes down to a conditioning thing. And then to your point, absolutely, getting these guys on the field in action, sweating in the jersey and winning together. There is no substitute for game time together in terms of combinations and the tactics that you're trying to roll out. The more reps you get, the better, the slicker you are. From your side, Mark, what do you think? This Dragons team, they won 1 in 10 games. They haven't won since October. Obviously, we all expect the Bulls to win, but what constitutes a win that suggests the Bulls are continuing to take strides forward in your view?
I think it's how clinical they are on their performance. Definitely the bonus point should be a given at home, and kind of like they put together a more polished performance, and I thought we saw that in the 57-12 win against the Scarlets. They started well. There was that holding phase in fairly difficult conditions, and then they came back and they finished well. So I'd also like to see a game where, not like a 55-31 kind of game. I'd like to see a game where they actually shut them out and they clinically beat them. But the key there is, I'd take a 28-0 over a 55-25, as long as you get the 3 or 4 tries. But I think it's just that momentum at the moment. They're winning in the Currie Cup, they're winning the URC, they're winning the Currie Cup. They feel they're in two competitions. They're definitely going to make the playoffs of the Currie Cup, and they've got a good shot of making the playoffs of the URC. And when I say playoffs, maybe even to a top 4 position. So I think it's momentum more that they would be looking for, and a continuation of that, and also the discipline. I thought they were a lot more disciplined in the last, post the Munster game, and a lot less frantic in the way they played. So yeah, momentum is the key for me, and I think that's something that the Sharks will be looking for as well. They've had 2 home wins, but they've been very sluggish home wins. They've got the bonus point against the Scarlets, and they beat Zebra 38-6. But it was a weird kind of game because it was so messy and stop-start and ugly. So maybe the likes of an Edinburgh, who are 5th on the table, will bring something out of the Sharks, because they know they're going to have to play well to win. It's 5 plays against 6. And if you look on balance, the team, Ollie, the Sharks, they should beat Edinburgh in South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, given the number of Springboks they've got, given the fact that Edinburgh is going to be, playing in the humidity of Durban, I think we haven't really spoken about that much this week, but it was incredibly evident at when Cardiff played the Stormers on, was it Sunday that they played? Yeah. That these guys have come from, the lowest degrees in the Northern Hemisphere to, a 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon game in the sweltering heat of Cape Town, where it says it's 23 degrees, but realistically it's about 28, 30 degrees. The weather apps kind of got it wrong. And equally for every city you're playing, Cape Town, you're baking in the sun, Durban, that humidity is something else, and then obviously the altitude of the Highveld. So I really think that's as good as the South African teams have been. That's where there is that huge added factor, and maybe what the bookies are taking into account with every game is that these guys that are now coming into haven't been in Cape Town or in South Africa for the last 2 weeks. Ulster are flying in now, Edinburgh are flying in now, straight from those conditions to these.
Yeah, what would you be looking for from the Sharks, Zels? Outside of the win, obviously, in terms of performance.
Yeah, you'd expect that that sort of Bok-type 5 to really take control. What's interesting for me is that Edinburgh, just in this competition this season, don't travel well. I think this season they've played, I'm just having a look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 away games, and they've won 2 of them. Those wins were against Zebra and the Dragons. And they're a team that goes from, smashing Connacht 56-8 to just edging Benetton 28-7. So they're very up and down side. Although they've got some great pieces in there, they haven't actually clicked yet. And that's to your earlier point, that kind of mirrors where the Sharks are. They haven't seemed to put together a sort of comprehensive performance, and I think it's time for that Bok-laden pack. I know they're missing Lucanio Arm on the backs, but that pack needs to really step up now and show that they can take control against an Edinburgh side that's got a few internationals themselves.
Are we also being potentially a little bit hard on the Sharks? Because they are a team that plays in Durban and they play their home games. And I remember going back to the history of Super Rugby, when the Sharks used to start their season at home in February, March, they always seemed diabolical. The minute they went overseas, they looked like a team who could play. So are we underestimating that even though they live in Durban, they still have to play in those same conditions, and they are as vulnerable to that greasy ball and to that sloppy surface, and that we should maybe be cutting them a bit more slack?
No, I don't think so at all. I think if you play in those conditions, your tactics should reflect that. So if you play in a town where it's difficult to hold the ball at a certain time of the year, your tactics should be to give the other team the ball and make them carry it. And I think that's where the Sharks have maybe got caught up in their own hype, is they're trying to play a game that potentially sells tickets, but they need to get back to their kicking game and keep the contest on the other side of the field.
Well, I don't know why they were playing a game that sells tickets, because up until 2 days ago, they couldn't sell any. They weren't allowed to. But okay, so let's the other one, and the interesting one, because, wow, of all the wins last weekend, for me, it was my favorite victory, was the Lions against Munster, and I'd written them off after 15 minutes, 14-0. I thought, my God, just get this team out this competition. It's been painful to watch. And then something just clicked. They got a bit of luck. The Munsters' 4th try was disallowed. And they just seemed to find something that we felt has been in this Lions squad all along. A bit of tick and a bit of attitude. And then the calmness of Jordan Hendricks. So, Ollie, you did an interview with him for SA Rugby magazine. Spoke to him a couple of days before the game. And you were quite confident after that he could potentially produce something special and that the Lions could pock something.
Yeah, well, just on your earlier point about sort of them going down, early on, and you thinking might as well switch off, it reminded me very much of obviously going to Saks, and then you would host, you'd host sort of like Paul Boys or Paul Gym, and you'd look at our first team and think, they would go down 14-0 in the first 10 minutes. I think that's it. And then they kind of realize we're actually playing them in Newlands and 8 of their guys are at Craven Week, so maybe we can actually win this, And then they would come back. It was very similar to that sort of southern suburbs schoolboy dynamic with those bigger schools. But yeah, Jordan Hendricks, I think just when I spoke to him on the Thursday, and he had just had a very good performance the previous weekend. And just very calm and kind of like, I think, what struck me as a young guy that's very aware of his context as a young guy in a professional environment, but very sure of himself too. And I think he said, it's you can't be kind of, age can't be a factor for you when you come into the setup. It's about what you can do, and you need to be the first to prove that. And I just thought, very cool-headed performance to come back and just, he's got a great boot, and, it's clearly something that he consistently works on. And it's winning guys matches, and you've always said, from as long as I can remember you talking about rugby, that it's always baffled you why people don't just take 3 points, because those 3 points accumulate, and the Lions again, that showed that the boot is super valuable.
Yeah, I always think you build the scoreboard pressure, and South African teams like to play 12-3 up as opposed to chase a game 12-3 down early on. And the statistics, I don't have them offhand, but I'd be very surprised if it's anything significant, the turnaround from the kick to the corner, the drive, and the score for a potential 5, not even necessarily a 7, in relation to a gimme 3 points. I think where teams don't take the 3 points is because they may feel they're going to struggle to get back up the field because they don't have momentum in the game. And it's like they've taken them 20 minutes to get into that 22, and we're going to try and stay here for a bit. But on the whole, I've seen so many games get down to the wire, and you just think you had the chance to be 15-6 up, 12-3 up. And I think especially playing at altitude, the more you take points, the more the overseas teams have to chase a game.
Exactly.
As opposed to, it's easier for them to defend that first 30 minutes and to defend them all in that. But I just love the fact that there was ticker, that there was attitude, and you could see Munster being a bit lost in there. And I think Munster thought this was a game that they would have picked as a 5-pointer on tour, and especially when they went 14-0 up. But I'm also a huge fan of Jordan Hendricks. I think his brother, the scrum half Jade Hendricks, the Sharks, a very good player as well. Interesting though, from the interview when Ollie and I were chatting about it, was Ollie that he's molded his game on Owen Farrell, where he's always looked at a Dan Carter and Richie Mahunga as very good players. But that was nice here because it means he's molded it on a physical presence, which a lot of the South African fly-offs don't have.
Yeah, I think physical presence and a fairly clinical boot, which is it's ironically very suited to the South African style, but it's not none of the fly-offs like we have, like you're saying, Cohen Bosch didn't work at fly-off. Manila Box really come into his own recently, but you wouldn't call him a physical fly-off either. Henry Pollard has been pretty much the only guy that we've really felt in the last couple of years has had the physical, the physicality to match the sort of skill set to play in a South African style of rugby. So yeah, it was interesting to hear because he's a big guy as well, playing at 10. Interesting to hear that was the guy that he sort of molded himself after. But another interesting point too that came from that is if you think about a lot of our younger generation of guys that are coming through and now playing the United Rugby Championship, who grew up, like me, watching Super Rugby and, wanting to play these New Zealand teams and these Australian teams. And it's an interesting point that he made that it's like you actually, hopefully he's going to play these guys one day, but in an international guise, because at the moment it's not going to be at a domestic level. So it's interesting to see what that does, for him and the likes as a player. But nice to know that there's sort of a comprehensive view of rugby from our...
Yeah, and also if I look at him, he's only 20, he's already had a very serious injury. So to come back from that, I thought he was outstanding when he played for the under-20s in the tournament they won in Stellenbosch last year. Just in terrible conditions. He also kicked well, and he also fronted well against the British and Irish Lions. So and he took contact very early on in that game as well, even though they got smashed. I just felt this was a kid who, some kids look as if they belong in professional rugby straight away, and some kids are 25 and you still think they're going to come through. And unfortunately, Kerwin Bosch is in that category. Is you're hoping for Kerwin Bosch to come through to kind of show the dominance that he did as a schoolboy or under 20 footballer, and it just doesn't happen. I think that does come down to physical presence. But yeah, Jordan Hendrickson, I've got him to have another good game, kick a lot of goals, and I've got them to upstage the Ospreys, who have been hit and miss. They've won 7, lost 5.
Yeah.
And of all the Welsh teams, they're normally the one that's the most decent. But at altitude, I'm back in the Lions to win again. Zels?
Yeah, so a win against the Ospreys doesn't only help the Lions, it helps the Bulls too. The Ospreys are 9th, the Bulls are 8th. I think the Lions do win that game. I can chip in on Jordan. I think he's a fantastic prospect. Is that physicality you spoke about, he shows it on defense. And the thing that impresses me the most is his composure, man. The way that he's in an opposite situation to Kerwin. Kerwin's surrounded by Springboks and a winning team. And Jordan's over at the Lions with guys that, are looking overseas in a losing outfit where the coach has called him out for lacking heart. And he's standing up and playing like a legend. So I've got high hopes for him. I think he's going to do very well. I'm going to say Lions by, 9 points.
All right. Well, give us your picks on all four South African games. You got Lions by 9 points. You got Sharks by.
I'll take Lions.
I'll take Sharks by 7. I'm going to say Stormers by 4 and Bulls by 16.
Right, Ollie.
Okay, I'm going to take Lions by 9, Sharks by 9, Bulls by 23, and Stormers by 6.
All right, I got the Bulls by 30 plus. A lot of confidence in them at the moment. I got the Stormers to edge a thriller by 3. I got the Sharks to have a scrappy 15-point win, and I got the Lions to take it by 1 score, 6 points. All right, if you want to know what Moneyman has got to say, he is in Budapest, as we said. Do log on to his Facebook page. You will see all the details on the screen, and also the SA Rugby Facebook page and Twitter feed closer to the game. He'll be giving you his bets and the odds if they do change. Zals, it's been a pleasure. Get better, get back to the office soon. Ollie, thanks for coming in. And let's enjoy. Let's make it 12 from 12 for South African teams at home.